Welcome back to page 2. This page deals a lot with slope and graphing and equations of lines. So let's start with number 7 at the top. Write the slope-intercept form, which hopefully you remember is y equals mx plus b, where m is the slope and b is the y-intercept of the equation of the line through the given points. So here are the 2 points. First thing you want to do is find the slope. Many of you see it like this, but to be honest, you can say it's the first y minus the second y as long as you do the first x minus the second x. If I look here, I think I want to do 5 minus negative 2. Subtract the y values. I want to start with the second y minus the first y. So then I have to start with the second x minus the first x. I like to do that one because then I know that I'm going to get some positive answers here. So 5 minus negative 2 would be 5 plus 2, which is 7. 0 minus negative 4, 0 plus 4 is 4. So that right there is my slope. Then you can choose either point. I'm going to be honest, things with like zeros, I generally pick first. So I am a slope-intercept girl. So my m is 7/4. One of many points that the line goes through is 0, 5. 0 is the x. 5 is the y. 0 times anything is 0. So 5 equals 0 plus b. And some people may write minus 0 because it's not, but you really don't need that because subtracting 0 doesn't do anything. B is 5. Once you have your slope and your b, you can write your equation. Now, you might have said, I didn't need to do any of that. I know this is the y-intercept. Because if I go 0 left or right and 5 up, then 5's my y-intercept. That's great. But if you didn't, and it won't always have it here, plug in your x, plug in your y. Okay, so let's look at the next one. Write the slope-intercept form of the equation of the line through the given point with the slope. Now, we can do it the way I've been doing it with slope-intercept from the beginning. So the y value is a 4. The slope is negative 1/2. The x is negative 2. And I got to figure out what b is. Negative 1/2 times negative 2 is positive 1. So subtract 1. B is 3. And then now that I know that b is 3 and my slope is negative 1/2, I can go and write my equation. However, I know many of you used this quite a bit last year. This is point slope. Sometimes I like that one because if they give you a point and a slope, then you use the point slope. It kind of reminds you, but it's a preference. So we'll have y minus, that means plug in the y value of the point, which is 4. The slope is negative 1/2. That's x minus the x value of the point is negative 2. So it's always minus, and then you put the x value behind it. 2 negatives make a positive. Then distribute, because you want to get it in slope-intercept form, so it would need to be y equals. So then you distribute. So y minus 4 equals negative 1/2 x minus 1. Solving for y, so I'm going to add 4. Y equals negative 1/2 x plus 3. You get the same answer. Some people really like this one because you don't have to solve and then rewrite it. I tend to go this one myself, but whatever you like is fine. Next, 9 and 10. I'm not quite sure if you definitely covered this last year in Algebra 1. So I'm just going to give you this picture here. The slope of this line is 1/3. I can make a line parallel to that by simply putting it somewhere else on the y-axis. I'll say I'll put it up here. And making the slope the same. So if I go up 1 and over 3, I can create a parallel line as long as the slope is the same. If I want a perpendicular line, I need to take the slope, flip it, and change the sign, otherwise known as opposite reciprocal. So perpendicular, the shortcut way of saying perpendicular is the upside down capital T, would have a slope then of -3/1. So if I flip that, I got 3/1. And if I change the sign, since it was a positive fraction, now it's negative. So I'll just pick another, I'll say it crosses here again. But if I made this slope -3, it would go down 3 and right 1. And you can see these two lines are perpendicular when I flipped and changed the sign. But if I kept the slope the same, they were parallel. So let's look here. They want parallel, so you want to keep the slope the same. This is slope-intercept form. So slope is -1. And here's your point. I'm going to stick with the slope-intercept form here to get my b value. So -1 is your y. Your slope is also -1. The x value is 2. And you might go, hey, what am I doing with this? Nothing. Parallel lines can have very different y-intercepts, but they must have the same slope. So -1 equals -2 when I multiply those, plus b. Add 2 to both sides. b equals 1. So now write my final equation. Y equals, my slope was -1, and my b is 1. So there is the parallel one. This one a little different because they want it perpendicular, upside down capital T. So flip it and change the sign. So -1/3 would become +3/1, or just +3 for the slope or the m. The x is -2. The y is -4. 3 times -2 is -6. Then you want to add 6 to both sides. b equals 2. So now let's write your equation of the one perpendicular. So make sure you use this new slope. Y equals 3x plus 2. And my last one for this page, number 11. Write the slope-intercept form of the equation of each line. Slope-intercept. M and B. So you might go, hey, mine doesn't have these bulging points. Well, you can look anywhere on a line and just bulge the points, because a line consists of an infinite amount of points. So I always pick, if I can, the y-intercept and another spot that's right at nice whole numbers. So I can see, I always look for the y-intercept first. That's clearly -1, which I write as -1. Then I look for the slope. How do I get from the left point to the right point? It looks like I go down 2 and right 1. So -2/1, which again, just -2. So y equals -2x minus 1.